Is this better? Is this working now? Okay, yeah, I can see. Okay, I can see there's some sound working. So, anyway, for those of you who started up early with me, good. Thanks, Marco. Awesome. Okay, here we go. So, the Leo full moon is very interesting this year, and it's a good opportunity for a culmination of a certain part of the ego. Um, what's happening right now is that we have the moon in Leo, and then we have many other planets opposed in Aquarius. And I'm pulling it up right now, but we have right now the Sun, Mars, Venus, um, Mercury, and Pluto all in Aquarius. And Aquarius is the opposite sign of Leo. Okay, so if you're in Aquarius, this full moon is a big deal. The only planet in Leo right now is the moon. Okay, so it's a Leo full moon, but it's not all the Leo energy. So think of it as that the Leo energy is getting a makeover. And one aspect of the Leo energy is the ego. Okay, so what I said in the title, I talked about killing the ego. Now, you can never really kill the ego when it comes down to it. The ego, and I just made a I made something I made a video about that earlier. But the ego is really like our avatar in this 3D reality. This is, we have an ego in terms of like the software, the operating system. And then we have the body as the hardware, right? And so the ego is something that we always have to have. Every body requires an ego. So it's not intrinsically a negative thing to have an ego. It's not bad. Um, so the thing is, as the spiritual ascension is going on, we need to upgrade the ego. We need to take the ego to a new level to play the game at a new level. So the Leo full moon is a time of culmination. It's one of the major aspects of full moons is that it's like the ripening. At the new moon, we make our intention, we set our intention, we make our wishes. At the full moon, we pick the fruit off the tree or whatever. It's the culmination, it's the ripening. So, what we want to do with this is have a kind of culmination with a layer of ego that is ripe, it's ready to fall, it's ready to upgrade. And so we might need to prune a few things back. And so the thing about the Leo full moon this time is that we have to realize this is happening at a time of mass upheaval energetically. Forget about politically right now for the time being, just for a second. Forget about world politics and all of that, but just think about the energetics that we are moving into a new earth. And what is happening is that we are in a higher frequency, and that sounds like a very nebulous term. I get it, but we are. And in this higher frequency that we are moving towards, it's a gradual process, because what happens is when you turn on the light brighter and brighter and brighter, you see the dirt. That's the first thing that happens. You see the dirt. And when you see the dirt, you might go into dismay. And your first instinct might be like, let's turn that light off. This is making me uncomfortable. But, when it comes to light and dirt, everybody knows the deal. Everybody knows what a light is, and everybody knows what dirt is. But when it comes to the frequency rising on planet Earth and us moving into a different reality, most people don't know anything about that and wouldn't believe it if they heard it. And most people won't even hardly hear it, let alone believe it. So as we move into this new Earth, we're going to have aspects of our ego challenged. So, I always do these things intuitively, and I don't necessarily follow the plan that I had, because when my intuition hits, it's like, that's what I got to do. And so, what my intuition just told me that we need to do today is we need to talk about this opposition between the Leo energy, and think of one really easy way to think about it. First of all, Leo is ruled by the sun. The sun illuminates the entire solar system. A Leo, at their best, illuminates others, illuminates the awesomeness of the people that they encounter. And a Leo at their worst is like, how's my illumination looking? Right? A Leo at their worst, rather than shining outward into infinity and lighting everything up, they worry about, how am I looking? How am I looking right now? How am I coming off? And that's a lower level of the Leo energy. So if we're going to upgrade the Leo energy and upgrade the ego, the avatar of the ego that we live with, if we're going to change our Leo energy, then here's what we need to do. We need to get grounded in this life force. Now, so what I'd like you to do is feel right now experientially, just feel that your body's alive. Whatever you can feel. Maybe there's an itch on your arm or your nose or your ear or whatever, right? Maybe you can tell that you're breathing. Maybe there's a little ache or pain somewhere. And so I want you just to feel, or maybe you can feel your heartbeat, or maybe you just feel the energy of your body. Feel the fact that you're alive. Please do that now, in whatever way works for you. Good. Now, notice you're not making it happen. You probably can't make it stop by the force of your will. And you're not the one that is making it happen in the first place. So, life is erupting out of you without you really trying that much. It just happens. It's kind of effortless. So let's call that shining. Okay. It's kind of like the sun. We all have Leo in our chart, whether we have a planet there, whether we're a Leo sun or moon or rising or whatever. We all have Leo energy. We have all of the signs. Okay. So this is your shining energy. You're not doing it. You are not making your body be alive with effort, just like you're not making your heart beat. Because if it was up to you to make your heart beat all the time, you'd forget and it'd be over, right? So somehow your body is alive without you doing it. It's just happening, okay? Somehow the sun is shining. It's not pushing rays out by force of will, right? It just shines, okay? And so the negative Leo energy comes in when there's an insecurity and like, how am I looking? And there's a self involvement. And where the little ego starts thinking that it needs to do something to make things happen. And what I call that is not trusting the fire energy. Okay. You're not trusting your fire energy when you're manipulating your fire energy, when you're thinking that you need to make it happen somehow. You're not making it happen. You didn't make it happen. Okay. So now we're going to go through and talk about transforming each of the energies that are involved in this. So the first one is Pluto. Pluto's in Aquarius, and it is roughly opposed, um, involved in this full moon. Pluto's at 3 degrees, and the moon is at what, 14 degrees. So yeah, it's a wide angle. But anyway, so what is your Pluto? Pluto is your transformation. Pluto is your death and rebirth energy. It's the ruler of Scorpio, whether you think it's a planet still or not, whatever. But Pluto is about death and rebirth. Okay. So we have the moon on one side, we have Pluto on the other side. And so, what are we transforming in terms of the moon, our emotions in Leo, that ego, that fire energy, right? Think about what part of your ego you need to transform. Here's something I would recommend. How about transforming the feeling that you need to make things happen? Think of that you need to make things happen, that it's up to you to make things happen. So, what if we just unplug that for a second? We let it die, we reboot it, just like Marco told me to do with the computer when the sound wasn't working. We reboot it, and then it works. So, let's say I'm just going to sit here and just experience the fact that my body's living without me making it happen, without me being in control of it happening. And the world is turning and everything, plants are growing and all this stuff is happening without me making it happen. So feel that. Feel that you can let go for a moment of the effort, right? Think of it this way. If you're steering a ship downstream, or a boat, whatever, downstream in a river, all you have to do is just kind of barely turn the tiller a little bit to steer, right? You don't have to do anything for the movement to happen. You can just float downstream. Okay, but what the ego's doing is jumping up and down on the boat, trying to make it go faster and stressing. And what if it's not going fast enough? What could we do? And all of that. But with the transformation I'm talking about, what we would do is we would just feel the river is doing the work, and all I have to do is guide the process. So, how do we make that happen in our lives? We can feel my body's alive. I'm not making it be alive. I'm not doing some genius thing to make my body be alive. I'm not talking about long term and health and, all the good habits or bad habits. I'm talking about right now, your body's alive and you're not doing it. If your body's alive and you're not doing it, you can let the momentum of that life force just be there. Okay. And then you can just direct the energy of your manifestation very gently. And as you do that, what happens is you start noticing reflections like, oh, I left the house all pissed off today. And then I got in traffic and everybody in front of me, beside me, whatever, pissed me off with their bad driving and reconfirmed the mood that I left the house with. And so I can see that my energy, pushing and fighting and all of that, is being reflected in these other drivers that are then bringing that energy out more, and I send it out more, and then we spiral downward into a bad result. Okay, so what if I say I wake up in the morning and I'm pissed off and I say, okay, I better handle this before I go out driving. you know and then I maybe do a little meditation. Maybe I just think about it a little bit instead of being unconscious about it. And then when the first driver cuts me off or whatever they do, I just say, oh, check that out. Okay, yep, good try, universe. And you start taking things with ease. Pushing and forcing is something that we are taught we need to do, but maybe we don't. So we're changing the agent of change, the transformation. The lower energy of Pluto, of transformation, let's say, is pushing and trying and fighting. And the higher frequency is surrendering and just kind of barely guiding the movement of the change as it happens, having that light touch. As we go into a higher frequency, a lighter touch is going to be required. And so this is something that, in order to transform in the old earth reality, maybe we had to write a bunch of lists and we had to do a bunch of work and whatever. But the lighter touch of transformation that this Leo full moon could help us with is to realize all we have to do is hold the frequency of the new reality that we want to manifest. Hold the frequency of the new reality you want to manifest. And when you find it hard to hold the frequency of the new reality you want to manifest, then what do? You clear the things that are ensnaring you in this other frequency. And as you do that, things start to change. Okay, so the next planet is Mars. Now, Mars is about action. Mars is also about passion. Pluto, too. They both rule Scorpio. And Mars can also be very, it's fiery like the Leo energy itself. But if we're transforming this action energy, if we're doing that deliberately and using this Leo full moon to make that happen, then what would the new upgraded Mars look like? What would the new action look like if it was more effortlessly? And also remember, like Leo is more about me shining, and Aquarius is more about humanity. So Leo's more the individual, and Aquarius is more humanity. It's a very humanitarian kind of sign. And so, how would you upgrade your action, your ability to take action, your passion, your anger? So, if we're going to upgrade the ego, then we're going to upgrade the part of us that feels the anger, that feels the indignation, that wants to set things right. And so when we think about the Mars, it's the same energy that I was describing of the sun. It's the same thing of that the energy can just shine out without us pushing it out. The anger can happen. Anger is part of the human experience. It is a necessary aspect of the human experience. And you're not going to totally get rid of anger, it's required. But what we can get rid of is reactive anger, anger that is based on an old event that really that we're reacting in the present to something that happened in the past, whether we're reacting to the present. And reacting to the present is more like responding. So responding versus reacting. That's how we could upgrade this Mars energy. We could be very responsive to our environment. We could engage with our environment without a grudge, without a position that we need to fight for, that we need to maintain. Wouldn't that be an upgrade for a lot of people? We could be alive and energetic and in the moment versus waiting for something to happen. No response is still a response. That is true. Absolutely. Um, and oftentimes a pretty shitty response, right? So being responsive is like handling the situation as it comes to us, right? one time I was an exchange student in Sweden. I was skiing, and my host sister was like a championship skier. And there was this part of the run where it was all messed up. It was like there were rocks and roots, and you had to kind of pick your way down the hill in this one little section. But my host sister would just fly down the hill. And every time I got there, I got stuck at the top, like, okay, plan my descent down this hill. How the hell am I going to make it? Then my host sister would come along and I said, how do you do that? I said, what if there's a rock? What if there's a root? She's like, well, as soon as there is one, you avoid it. You get out of the way. Okay, cool. So that's what I did. Next time I went down the hill, I went boom, 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 really fast. Not as fast as her, but it was kind of effortless, and I was blown away. One way that you can change reactivity to responsiveness is just take a one deep breath pause. That's all. That's it. That's all you got to do. And once you do that, respond. Now, this is all a process. So the moon is also opposite, obviously, the sun, because the moon being opposite the sun is what makes a full moon. Okay. So we have the sun in Aquarius, humanitarian, the water bearer, an air sign, an intelligent sign, an electric sign. But it's more about humanity, society in general, groups. Leo, it's the proud lion. Okay, so we have the emotional part in Leo, the sun part in Aquarius, and so there's always a tension when you have opposites. So how do we upgrade the sun? How do we upgrade our own sun? Well, what we do is we go to our heart. So I want you to just feel in the heart area and feel whatever you feel there. Is it heavy? Is it an empty void? Is it fluttery? Is it numb? And feel a kind of, imagine pride without ego. What would that feel like? Pride without ego. So just take a couple breaths into the chest. And just think the thought, pride without ego. I'll make it a little easier. How about pride without defensiveness? How would that work for you? Like there's nothing to defend. Is there anything you need to defend? Most people walk around defending themselves in their mind, even in their physical posture. Do you know that almost everybody has shoulder tension? And do you know that shoulder tension is heart protection? That's energetically what it is. The heart chakra is connected to the shoulders, goes out to the hands, to the palms. Think of Jesus pictures right? With the palms extended, right? The palms are sub chakras of the heart chakra, so it goes out through the arms. So when we do like that, we're protecting ourselves from something. When we do like that, we're protecting our heart. We're protecting. Now, if you see somebody whose posture has turned into this permanently, that's a state of emotional self protection that is locked into the body. And you can read it on people's bodies a lot of times. Um, there can also be a caved in chest thing that can be a protected, it's a different energy than this one, though. And you can see it. And we all intuitively see that in people. You can see if somebody looks insecure. How do you know? Well, there's certain facets of body language. So, how can we use this Leo energy to upgrade the self protection of our ego? So, I want you to imagine there's like self protection in front of your heart. Imagine that even if we all have tight shoulders. And I'm not saying it's only because we're avoiding heart energy or something, but it is partially that. So imagine again, Leo rules the sun. Imagine the sun in your heart shining out and kind of melting the protection layers. Imagine just your heart shining so brightly that it melts through the protection layers. And guess what happens then? It shines even brighter. Isn't that awesome? Yes, it is. And so, as we feel that energy going out, and remember, all of this is to upgrade us for the new earth that we're very gradually moving into. Some would say we're already into it. I would say that too. But we're catching up to a shift that's already occurred. So, upgrading our sun means think of the lion, Leo, the lion. The lion doesn't go around worrying about whether it's protected. Why? Number one, it's a badass. It's a lion. Number two has its group, its pride. And if you notice a Leo pride, are they acting all proud? Are they acting egotistical? I don't think so. They own it. They don't have to act like anything, right? They are the kings of their domain. And so I want you to feel that your heart energy doesn't need to be protected the way you thought it did. That when you are dealing with people who don't like you, who are opposed to you in whatever way, you don't need to put a lot of energy into those situations. You need to put enough energy into the situation to get through the situation and to not cause harm to yourself. If you have an egotistical boss, you might need to just do what they say and play their game and not get fired. But you don't need to put a lot of energy into like, I can't believe that they told me that. And, you don't need pride and you don't need shame. You just need to stay in your energy. The new earth is going to test us all to see if we can stay in our energy. And it's going to throw up obstacles that kind of push us out of the energy. And so if we can move through that, and if we can transform along with that, it won't be killing the ego, it'll be upgrading the ego, and it'll be lightening the ego's load. Think about somebody who's a control freak and who has to know everything that's ever going to happen and have it all planned out and have no surprises. That causes stress. That causes a lot of stress for them, and it causes a lot of stress for everybody else. So now think of the person who just kind of floats down that river with the current of the river and allows themselves to be taken downstream. That's a little easier. That's what we're moving towards. So the next planet is Venus. So we have the moon opposing Venus. And the moon and Venus kind of have some similarities. So let's say there's a culmination in the Venus energy for you right now. So Venus is love. Venus is appreciation of beauty. Venus is what you value. How could that be upgraded in your life? For example, if you love somebody and they don't love you back, then what do? If you say, well, then fuck you, then I would say, how much did you really love them? If you love somebody and they don't love you, why would that change the fact that you love them? So an upgraded Venus doesn't really need them to love you back. It would certainly prefer it, but it doesn't necessarily need it. So think about Venus in your life. Venus could be how you dress, not my forte, how you decorate your home, what you appreciate. Like one thing that I noticed when I became a healer, I started working with a lot of fashion people and artists. People whose whole job was to make things look good. And my whole life, I said any focus on that is shallow bullshit. I don't like it. So when I got all these fashion clients, um, I started saying, well, why did I manifest fashion people? And then one thing that came up to my mind that was really funny was I realized, like, I was living in New York then, that when I would walk from point A to point B in New York, I would always plan my route according to the nicest view, the nicest tree-lined streets. And that's the way I would do it. I would go down those streets. I might walk a little farther. Somebody else might say, well, let's just walk down the boulevard straight there. And I'd be like, no, we're going to do it this way. And especially dudes, they'd be like, why? This is illogical. I'd be like, it's a nicer walk. I'd rather walk down the quieter tree-lined streets than the boulevards with ambulances and fire trucks and police cars, sirens honking, and all that noise. So I realized, oh, I do have some kind of appreciation. And then I started realizing, oh, my whole life I have had opinions about certain fashion trends and whatever. And, you know, So there's not zero that I thought there was. And so working with fashion people was a reflection that brought out an understanding that I already had opinions in this realm. So that was interesting to me. And so think of the Venus thing in your life. What do you appreciate? What do you love? What do you appreciate about yourself or other people? Are there wounds in this realm of love and beauty? And what do you value? So, one way that you can really upgrade your Venus is by upgrading your values. Have your values been more superficial than you would like, or that would fit in with the new earth? Have your values been too controlling? Meaning, well, it's only beautiful if it's this style and it comes from this era and whatever. One thing I noticed working with the fashion people is that a lot of them really didn't care about brands. They cared about fashion as an expression of uniqueness. It wasn't about, are you wearing this brand or that brand? Not that that doesn't exist, obviously, but not as much as I thought. It was more about, are you expressing something true to yourself through fashion? And that can be done in many, many ways and doesn't have to cost as much money as you'd think, and oftentimes does. So, how can you upgrade your values? How can you upgrade your values moving toward the new earth? It's going to be different for everybody. One thing might be to widen the scope of what you appreciate. Now, Venus is in Aquarius. Aquarius is weird. Aquarius is oddball energy. It's about really claiming your uniqueness. And the moon, it's a little more sensitive. It's a little more, has the capacity for butt hurt energies. But Venus is that flowing outward energy of appreciation. So I think one good thing to do with to upgrade the Venus in this Leo new moon is to appreciate uniqueness wherever you see it. Not just appreciate beauty, but appreciate the expression of uniqueness. That's one thing I recommend. Think about how you might be limited in your appreciation. I don't like that color. I don't like that kind of car. I don't like that kind of whatever. And imagine, like, I don't really like septum piercings. But do I need to really dwell on that? Does it really matter? Does anybody give a shit? No. Maybe I can appreciate the uniqueness of that person with their septum piercing and, their badass attitude going out in the world with that thing that I'm not the only one that doesn't like, the only one that judges or whatever, right? Just some stupid thing like that, right? Appreciate what they're doing. Appreciate if the only reason they have that piercing or jewelry or whatever is to fit in with a certain crowd because they're insecure, then love that. Appreciate that. It's fine. Be compassionate about that. That could be a good use of some Venus energy. And the next planet that could use our upgrade is Mercury. And so Mercury, it's about communication. It's about how do you speak, how do you communicate, um, and all of that. And so one way that we can take the Leo energy, so with Aquarius, with Mercury in Aquarius, okay, it's like one way to tap into that is intuition, and the moon, that's about intuition too. So how can you upgrade your intuition, and how can you upgrade communicating your intuition? Well, let's go back to what I was talking about earlier, that your body is alive and it's doing it on its own, and you're not making it happen. So now let's take the idea of the mind, and let's take the idea of the intuition and the communication, and let's kind of imagine the an upgraded ego ruling over those things. So one thing would be, we might understand that the brain is more of a receiver than a transmitter. That the brain doesn't come up with everything, that the brain doesn't make every thought. You don't create thoughts, just like you don't make your heartbeat. Thoughts happen through your brain. And in my analogy of steering the boat down the river, if thoughts happen through your brain, and your brain is more of a receiver than a transmitter, and your brain doesn't originate all of the thoughts, well, then where the hell are the thoughts coming from if you didn't make them? Like, I've been talking now for almost an hour, and I don't have a script. So, where the hell do all these thoughts come from? They arise, and I don't know how they arise. So, what I do is I kind of follow them, but I don't follow all of them. I discriminate. There are appropriate thoughts. So, I can decide which thoughts actually come out as sounds through my mouth. That's where I get involved in the situation. That's where the ego gets involved. But what a lot of people do is that their intuition is something that provides thoughts that are a little out of the norm for them. So they say, "What the hell was that thought?" And they throw it away. They don't follow up on it. So here's one tip for upgrading your Mercury energy: be curious about your thoughts that seem weird. Like, why the hell did I think of that? Be curious of those thoughts. Those thoughts will lead you into intuitions that you didn't necessarily plan on having. Those thoughts are coming from your higher self, from other people. I don't know where all the sources of thoughts are. What I do know is that the mind is part of a bigger field of energy, and it's not all contained within your brain. You could think of the aura. You could think of whatever metaphysical thing you want to think of. But be curious about the thoughts. Be curious. Think of it as like if you just say, if some weird thing pops out of your mouth and you're like, where the hell did that come from? And then somebody says, why did you say that? And then you feel compelled to come up with a whole story of justification about why you said it. You've been there. I've been there. Now imagine turning that around and saying, I have no idea. That was crazy. That might be scary for people. People are scared of the potential of being crazy. I get it. But the fact is, you don't have all your thoughts written out. Somebody asks you a question and you talk for 2 minutes answering their question without a script. So where the hell are those thoughts coming from? Who's assembling all those words on that assembly line? How does that happen? I'm not claiming to know. I'm just advocating being curious about your thoughts. That's all. Be curious because the upgrade. So, what we're talking about is reducing the weight of the ego and using this Leo full moon to create this culmination so that a new energy can bloom. And when you do that, what it looks like, what is the upgrade? What happens after that? Well, one thing that happens now that we're speaking about Mercury is that we can open up to intuition. And how do we open up to intuition? Well, one way to open up our intuition is to make it less about our ego. Let's say if you go and take a psychic intuition weekend seminar, and then you go back to your friends, and then your friends say, so what color am I thinking of? You're probably going to get it wrong. You might get it right, whatever. But it's a bad way to use it. The good way, what I recommend is when a thought comes up, look at it, be curious of it, play with it. And what I always tell my clients that are developing their intuition is share it with another person, but don't share it as a psychic revelation or something like that. Share it just as, wow, this weird thought just came to my head. I don't know what the hell it's all about, but it just popped up. Just if you want to upgrade your intuition, you can't put it on the chopping block and start slicing and dicing and dissecting. Okay, so the overall energy of this Leo full moon to me is about lightening up the Leo, the egotistical energy, making it about shining effortlessly and not looking back at how am I shining. A low frequency Leo is trapped in a kind of narcissistic grandiosity based on deep insecurity that they are trying to paper over with their shining. So a low frequency Leo wants to look good. They want others to be jealous of them, to look up to them, to admire them, and shine the spotlight on them. That's a low frequency Leo. A high frequency Leo shines effortlessly and illuminates others with no question about their own shining. So, back to the fact that Leo rules the sun. The sun, if we can personify it a little bit, if we can anthropomorphize it, whatever the word is. So imagine the sun as a person, a being of that nature. The sun shines and bestows its light upon the planets. It's not insecure about if anybody can see it. We can see it. So a low frequency Leo is saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. And we all have Leo, and we've all done the look at me. Another low frequency Leo thing could be, don't look at me. That could even be lower, actually, for a lot of people, because it's a denial of the essence of the Leo, which is ruled by the sun. But a high frequency Leo would be saying, wow, look at you. Feel the difference. Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. Wow, look at you. Oh my God. That's shining the light on the other person. And when you shine the light on the other person on that level, you realize that any need for light to be shown on you is ridiculous. You're the sun. Do you give a shit if you're the sun? If somebody points a flashlight at you? Yeah, fine. Thanks. Thanks for the flashlight. Thanks for the extra illumination. Very nice. But you know what? I don't think it's really adding much to the scenario here. So the upgrade is I shine effortlessly and I feel the organic nature of this effortless shining on others. I don't really worry about them seeing me shine because, duh, you couldn't miss it if you tried. And so the energies that we're upgrading are, again, Pluto transformation, Mars action, Sun beingness, Venus valuing, appreciating, loving, and Mercury going from overthinking to strong intuition. So here's what you can do as homework. And I will do a little, it won't be interesting to look at because I'll just be sitting here with my eyes closed, but I'm going to do a little energy healing meditation. And even if you're watching this, which most of you will be watching it afterwards, the energy will impact you. So the energy that I'm going to do is going to be to create this ease, to create this ability to be a little lighter, for the ego to be lighter, for the transformation to be lighter. So basically, the energy is floating downstream. It's all about allowing the universe to move us and us to gently guide the direction of our manifestation. So, what I'd like you to do is imagine the sun in your heart. Imagine the sun is shining right there. And imagine it's upgrading your energy system. It's upgrading all the things that we were talking about. And it's making it shine effortlessly. And so as you breathe, I want you to imagine like bellows, like you're blowing air on this fire in your heart. And you're not necessarily making it bigger, you're making it deeper. So, for those of you who want to stick around for that, I welcome you to. And for the rest of you, thanks so much for watching. Here we go. My little Leo kitties are want some attention. Just receive the energy. So again, your body is alive without you doing it. The sun is shining without it trying to shine. The energy expands outward from the center in the sun and in your heart. As you allow it to shine and you reduce the feeling of ego control or the feeling of needing ego control, you raise your frequency into this energy of the new earth that we are all moving into. The earth has ascended already, at least much more than humans have. And that's a good thing for us because it is the energy of that river that we can allow the current to take us downstream without using much effort, with only requiring us to lightly steer the ship of our manifestation. The lower frequency energies that we are coming out of were about ego and making an effort, competition, and lack. The new frequency that we are moving into is heart centered and requires very little effort. Heavy energy requires heavy effort. Low frequency energy requires heavy effort. High frequency energy does not. And we are moving into a higher frequency energy. So I will be back next week with another episode of my Sunday manifestation series. I don't know what it'll be about. If you're not on the list, just you can email me at andy@andysway.com and ask to be put on the list. Yeah, Kitty, I'll get to you. But anyway, I'm going to be doing these almost every Sunday between 5 and 7 Pacific, So that would be 8 and 10 Eastern. And yeah, so just feel that sunshine in your heart. That sounds a little cliche, doesn't it? And feel the effortlessness of life shining out of you without you having to make a huge effort. It's kind of an amazing thing. If you could give me a thumbs up, I'd appreciate it. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Thank you so much. My website is andysway.com and my email is andy@andysway.com. Easy. Until next week, thanks so much. Bye-bye.